All right, go for it.
Okay, so there's the feature of bucket logging. In this feature, um, I write like a journal on changes of one bucket into objects in another bucket. Um, when the destination of the log bucket is using a replica pool, then there's no issue. There are there could be many sources that are writing those small journal records into the object in the log bucket, and I'm using Redis append command to just put those logs at the end of the object. If the now I put the log is being written to a temporary file, but I use the same pool as the pool where the log bucket is. And this is because when I flush the temporary object into the log bucket, I don't want to copy anything. The only thing I'm doing, I'm adding information into the bucket index, and that's it. So um, this means that moving the object um, into the bucket is actually not moving anything, it's just making it visible. And this is very inexpensive. This works well if this log bucket is on a replica pool. If the log bucket is on um, erasure coding pool, then there's an issue. So um, the main issue is that by default, erasure coding pools, they don't support the append command, because when you try to append or modify an object, the result is actually they have to rewrite the entire object. And this is very expensive, so they block that. Um, this could be enabled, so there could be a command that you call and um, you tell the Ceph cluster that it should be okay to modify objects on a erasure coding pool. But even though now it works, there is still a cost to that. Um, and I haven't tested it, but performance could be a problem there. Um, so uh, trying to think what would be the right way to address it. So one way would be to say uh, try to avoid using log buckets on a erasure coding pool. Again, I'm not sure if this is possible because the log bucket is just a bucket and users can create it wherever they want. But I can recommend them against doing that and telling them if they insist on doing that, then they should run this command and may experience performance issues. Um, Another option would be to say that the temporary object, at least maybe in cases that the log bucket is on erasure coding pool, that the temporary object would be in a special pool that um, I'm going to create for this purpose, and make sure that this is a replica pool. And in those cases, flushing the object would be actually copying it over. Of course, the flush action would be more expensive, but flushing is an infrequent action compared to actually appending those rows to the object. So maybe the extra cost of copying is not that bad. Um, there, this is one kind of problem. The other problem is that um, like who exactly owns the pool, because those objects needs to belong to a specific pool or a specific bucket, and then I'm going to use the intermediate ones, and I have to make sure that it has enough size and so on and so forth. So it could have all kind of operational challenges from creating this special pool. Um, Yeah, so it's mainly kind of a question. Maybe people have ideas or can think of ways to solve this issue.
So we do already have an additional pool for each placement target that is, I think we call it the data extra pool in RGW. I forget how it's named, but we use that for multi-part uploads because that needs OMAP and EC pools don't support OMAP. So for multi-part uploads, we'll use that data extra pool for the tracking. So we could potentially put the log objects there and append to them directly, but then the commit would need to create a head object in the default pool to make it visible. And I guess that would mean its manifest would have to point at the other pool. I'm not 100% sure that we support that, but
I can copy the actual content of those objects.
Doesn't it seem better to use to update the manifest as a matter of efficiency?
The what, sorry?
I think the way Casey's describing it sounds more appropriately efficient than to copy all the objects every time you flush something.
Yeah, I mean, if the manifest can point to a different
That's all the manifests are for. So even if there's a missing functionality there, it's probably tractable.
Well, yeah, it would make the commits cheaper in that they don't have to copy data. The reads potentially would be more expensive just because they have to follow the indirection to tail objects. We wouldn't have the prefetch from the head.
That doesn't seem inappropriate.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. I mean, do we enforce some size limit on these appended objects? Are we guaranteed that they would be under 4 megabytes?
No, actually, I fill them up. I mean, if people are flushing or they reach some time limit, then I create a new one. But if not, I'm just appending them until they're full, like a couple of 200 megabytes or something like that. I mean, I can change that. It's just a question of what would be the reason.
Well, ironically, then being bigger makes them benefits the strategy Casey is describing, where we just write a manifest. Whereas the bigger, I guess it'd be great to create lots of them. All the copying is the same, even if it creates more objects. I think we shouldn't copy. I think we shouldn't create a system that requires us to copy all the data that we're writing out. So I like the proposal of updating the manifest.
Okay.
So another consequence of the current strategy of appending directly into the head object essentially is that object is visible to GET requests, even if we haven't added it to the bucket index. If a client knows its name ahead of time. But if we were writing it to a separate pool and commit was responsible for creating the head object, then it wouldn't be visible until happens.
So you have more proper, it sounds like more correct, arguably more correct atomicity in that case. So that's a nice feature too.
Right. Okay. And if you say that we already have this pool that we use for kind of temporary stuff, then one thing though, in the case of multi-part upload, do we delete the temporary files, or do we keep them in that pool?
They are deleted on complete multi-part and abort multi-part.
Right. So in my case, if I just change the manifest, I'm not going to delete those files.
But they'll be deleted eventually when the objects are garbage collected.
Correct.
No, I didn't mean that they're not going to be deleted. What I mean,
It's true that there's a special property of multi-part upload stuff that, these multi-part upload tracking files that they go away when you complete. That's a
no,
unique
no,
property of it.
right. My question, no, no, my question is different. So, in the case of multi-part upload, I don't really care about the overall size of this pool because I know that it holds things only temporarily. And in my case, things are not held temporarily there. They're held.
Okay, so you're just saying we would need to make sure that this pool is large enough to contain,
Yeah.
whatever is going to be resident there. That seems true, but
Well, by default, there isn't like a size limit per pool that would prevent us from storing things there.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, in this case, that'd be really ideal. I'll go down that path and see if I run into any issue.
So I guess one thing about garbage collection is that if we're treating this as a tail object, then it would be reference counted the same way that tail objects are, and garbage collection would delete it on last ref. Weren't you using ref counting on these for some other purpose, or was that on a separate object?
Oh no, I mean there's a different kind of work that is I haven't finished that to handle open transactions, but I'll deal with that when I go back to this. And I was using ref counting there, but for the regular operation of bucket logging, there's no ref counting.
Okay.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Well, we can follow up offline to discuss where in the code the extra pool is and how to set up the manifest and stuff.
Okay.
I'm glad that QE caught this for us.
Yes.
Okay, other thoughts on bucket logging? All right, next topic is mine. Just shared a link to the user dev weekly meeting that had gone over this Google Doc created during Cephalicon. And there were some RGW topics there that I tried to add some comments to, but I just tried to summarize these here in case people want to go into more detail. Not sure if we have any of the people from the user dev meeting to follow up, but just wanted to raise awareness mainly. We already have tracker issues for some of this stuff.
Hey, Casey, actually, I had one kind of follow-up question on that. One of the topics about the slow OSDs ops, tying up the threads. We've discussed this previously as well. Another angle on that was we were thinking today during the slow ops, if the RGW takes time, so you're trying to read a large file, and then the end client gives up. So you're trying to read a 1 gig file. There's a slow op. It's going to take time. After 60 seconds, most of the S3 libraries time out. But we do not time out, right? We, as in the RGW, doesn't time out. It still tries to request data from OSDs. I know there is no kind of tying up our front end request to saying that I do not now get the request because there is no receiver to receive that data. Is there any tracker or any thought on that? Like to RGW to stop working on trying to get data from OSD if the client has given up?
what happens now, I mean, you're right about, I think you're right about that, but so we will fetch the next tranche of data, whatever that is. When we attempt to write it back to the client, that operation will fail, and so we'll abandon at that point.
So only that specific tranche. So you're saying that if the 1 gigabyte of data would be divided into multiple tranches, and only the tranche that doesn't accept would fail, and
Like whatever our chunk window is probably the max, right? So there'll be we bloat some amount, but it's sort of essentially one segment, one transfer segment.
okay. So
Right, for get object, I think the default config is 16 megabytes of window. So that's the maximum that will buffer in memory per request without writing it back to the client. So even if the object size is a gigabyte, we shouldn't go more than 16 megabytes before realizing that the client went away. Does
so
that
we
make
don't.
sense?
Okay, so then we don't re-request the subsequent amount of data, right? If there is no client to accept further data, is that correct?
Correct.
And same goes even during the put, or like saying put the acknowledge RGW does not acknowledge back, saying that this chunk was written, and the client disconnects. We would not have any more. I mean, the client wouldn't be listening, or I mean, RGW wouldn't be listening in that terms, right, for data. But that data is already written, so it's just a garbage or junk data at that point in time, I guess, or multi-part chunk, I guess, about it multi-part uploads, right?
So I think put object has the same 16 megabyte window by default. And so that's the maximum that it would write to Rados before trying to read more and realizing that the client went away.
Got it. Okay. And is that 16 meg configurable today, or it's just we have hard coded, or it's like there in RGW config?
It is configurable on both sides, yeah.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. Thank you. Sorry, you said both sides, as in on the client side, as in on the S3 request, as well as on the RGW. That's what you meant by when you said both sides?
Both sides put obj and get obj.
Oh, put in
They
get.
have
Okay,
different config options.
got it. Okay.
I will copy them into the agenda. Okay, Matt, I saw your comment about trying to address this with the in-order sharding scheme. I think there's a number of places where we rely on atomicity there, so I think it'll be difficult to do, but we can talk through that.
Yeah, I mean, Eric and I have talked through it. I think it's achievable. I think we do. I mean, even if it's some cost to spanning, it can be the biggest problem that we don't have there's a simple algorithm for finding the next object sequence, next lexical sequence within an object key range. Is achievable. I mean, basically, I mean, I think it is tractable, and I think it's but bluntly, I think it's such an unreasonable limit that we have to pay for it.
Okay, I mean, as long as we don't have to add a transaction to our index transactions, then I think that would be a good improvement. It's just tricky.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I think it would. Yeah, there probably has to be some sort of barrier there, but not. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be an index spanning transaction, or at least doesn't. I mean, if it something much simpler, at least in terms of what it actually its structure. But yeah, it's just not plausible that we can go. We can't go much longer. It's amazing we've gotten this far, not being able to create buckets of and having some sort of really an arbitrary and not large upper limit on the number of either the number of objects you can put in a bucket or in the case here the number of versions you can create. You just have to shift that.
Yeah, there was some previous discussion. I added a link in the Google Doc. I can find it just about limiting the number of versions you can have for a given object, and I think that would potentially be another way to solve this. It's just tricky, I think.
I think it's semantically problematic. And the limit and in each case, if if that were the solution of it, it just ends up mirroring the limit of 200,000 OMAP keys in a key range that appears to be will never be improved. So, I mean, whatever it is, that number is just at least an order of magnitude off what people will probably expect.
Okay.
Someone wants to limit the number of versions we can, and it isn't sort of, I don't know how if it's preventing new ones from being created, for example. I mean, if we could introduce a semantic like that, if people wanted to opt into it, but I don't object. If users want it and can accept the semantics, I mean, I think it's fine, but I don't think it solves the bigger problem. But it would be another constraint that maybe helps you limit overuse of versions.
Yeah, I would guess that some of the cases of too many versions is just clients not understanding how versioning and delete markers work. And so creating a large amount of them without
even knowing they're doing it
to clean it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too. I mean, so that would be an acceptable line of development, line of work to do. I think we have to solve these OMAP limits.
Yeah, I mean, if it only comes with the in-order sharding scheme, then it doesn't help at all with our existing one.
Well, that's true. I don't think. Well, that's fair. But I mean, people can upgrade and move to the in-order sharding. I mean, right now, as it is, I mean, I get there's the limit. It's a weird combination of things, but the limit on the OMAP key range limit is a pure arbitrary. It's 200,000. It isn't in other words metered to the type of hardware you have or whatever. But all told, including the things we know about typical, I don't know, hybrid OSD hardwares that people have in large clusters. The current charting scheme has reached far into the fall off of bucket listing, at around 500 million objects, and they're paying an enormous amount to achieve listings at that scale. That upper limit is just not what people would want from the S3 service.
Agreed, yeah. But at smaller scales, I think the sharding is attractive for parallel operation.
That's also true. Yeah, I mean, for smaller, if for some workloads, it might be optimal or better, but for getting large, it's pretty terrible.
Yep. I guess my point is just that I don't really see in-order sharding. Well, I assume that it's going to have significant trade-offs between listing and write performance, and so I don't really see it as a replacement rather than just.
Okay. Well, I've seen it as a potential replacement, but I mean, we should measure it, and if it you make a case. I mean, there probably is a workload range where it'll be better. So.
Yeah, but just I see the requirement that versions map to a single shard in that placement strategy is hard to avoid, just because
I think that's true too.
Version ID is not part of the placement algorithm. So maybe just a limit for that case would be necessary.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against the limit idea altogether. I mean, I think it's that I just don't want to impose it as the only strategy.
Yep.
Going forward.
Agreed. Okay. Any other comments on this part of the agenda? Last thing I had was just an update on lack of updates for Tentacle release candidate. We've got a few PRs against Tentacle that are in Yuri's test batches. I think there are still some features that we wanted that haven't merged yet.
Yes.
The dedupe, I know, is in that category. What else?
I think the the D4N is the other one, but we decided the D4N was basically a bug fix, so we can merge it. We could declare the dedupe to be a bug fix if we really, really wanted to.
Well, it definitely isn't. But I mean, is there a risk that we can't get it in? I mean, or we can put it in a point release, a .1. There usually is one.
We can definitely put it in a point release, and I imagine we could get it in if we wanted to. But a point release would probably be following the rules a bit better. I'm happy either way. I feel kind of bad about not having got it in since it was a priority to do so. So I wouldn't mind trying to fast track it. But we can definitely get a point release.
So maybe, I know Yuval has been working hard to help get it ready. I think that that it's still not passing Teuthology, which I think is the most important part.
Oh yes, that is important before we merge it. I wasn't aware of that part.
Yeah. This is really what delays that. I had hopefully a final run. Yesterday we found a bug there that the librgw test found. It was not a crash on close, but kind of a hang on close on shutdown. So Gabi fixed that, and hopefully pretty soon today I'm gonna have results saying whether everything is green, or mostly green in Tautology.
So Adam or Kizzy, I mean, if we could reach merge of this week, does that meet the schedule for .0?
I mean, technically we're past the feature freeze, but I don't really feel like being a hard ass on it. So I don't know. It depends on how much we want to follow the rules.
Well, I mean, so it isn't for this meeting exactly, but I mean, we should try to do it in that case. But if the consensus of the CSE is that we shouldn't, then let's move it to a point.
Okay, that's fair to me. Or that sounds fair to me.
My opinion is that we were planning to take it 4T, and it wasn't quite ready for freeze, but we're still interested in taking it as long as it's passing Teuthology for the release candidate. I say we do it.
Okay, that sounds. I mean, so long as it's passing Teuthology and it doesn't ruin Yuri's life, then I think we can do it. Like, so long as we aren't making trouble for the other subsystems, I think that's the main thing we have to avoid.
Well, I think that's what they're going to say too, right? So.
All right. In that case, Yuval, if you can get it in there, we will try to get it into Tentacle.
Yes, I will update the PR once I'm done with Tautology.
Any other Tentacle stuff that hasn't merged yet? Okay, sounds like we're in pretty good shape. Let's see, Shilpa, I know that you and Mark, I think, had been doing some multi-site scale testing for this, and Mark had caught an issue and has a fix for it. I think I will make sure that that's tracked for Tentacle. Should be able to get in.
This is the EIO to converting EIO to internal errors.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. And separately, Mark has been doing some scale testing, and he has found some issues with the data log PR. So he managed to find. I mean, he managed to remove those commits and run a clean, a successful run. So it looks like I'm not exactly sure which commit is offending, but it's coming from the data log PR.
Okay, that sounds like something we really want to prioritize then.
Yeah.
Is there a tracker issue, or where is he talking about this stuff?
He's still continuing with his testing. It's not complete. So once we have some logs and get some more information, I'll open a tracker.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Mark and I are on top of it.
What do you guys think about treating this as a blocker for Tentacle then?
I'll check with him. I'll see what the results are. From what I heard yesterday is that it's still an ongoing issue, and then he said he will wait for another day and see if it resolves. But I'll follow up with him and get back to you.
It sounds like it is logically, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Thanks, Shilpa. All right, well, that's all that I have. Anybody have another topic they want to discuss today? All right, then let's call it here. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.